depending on where you are and what you've been doing. We're going to talk about the nature of self-care for this month. This is our topic. And in the nature of self-care, we're going to open today with the concept of humor, or as I like to say, a funny thing happened on the way to my healing. It's humor is an intriguing concept with healing, and it shouldn't be, because, well, humor is a natural part of healing. If we allow it to be natural, it's an ever-present part of healing. It's very important. It's been talked about for the longest time. Back in the 1300s, Henri de Monville, a professor of surgery, put out the post-operative theory of how important humor was. Norman Cousins, more recently, a journalist and a professional, would talk about humor, and he initiated the trend when he developed sort of his own treatment based on mood elevation and even laughter. And Bernie Siegel has written books about it too. Self-care, we know it's love, it's how we treat our bodies, it's exercise, it's conscious eating. We don't always think about it as being humor. We have to be reminded. The nature of self-care, well, it's an interesting conversation. It can be generic, these are the shoulds, these are the shouldn'ts, or it can be very personal. This is how it applies to me. This is how we can look and see who we are. It's very intriguing the way healing is recognized, just as it's kind of intriguing the way humor in healing is recognized. So think about it. Is humor funny? I'm sorry. Humor is funny. See, I was just funny by accident. And that's what humor is. Humor is not because we intend it. Nothing's worse than a forced joke or forced laughter. What makes dad jokes not funny is that we've heard them so many times. For something to be funny, it needs to be unexpected. It needs to be a surprise. So you tell the same joke over and over again, you can't really expect your audience to spontaneously laugh. They might politely laugh. And if they're your kids, after a while, they'll just groan. But humor has to be unexpected. So are we funny? I'm funny, maybe not at this moment. Or maybe when I say that, it strikes me funny. And when, people used to say, when I was a kid and I tell a joke, you're not supposed to laugh at your own jokes. Where the hell does that line come from? If your own joke makes you laugh, then you're really being natural and sharing with this. So more than likely, in self-care, we've got interesting topics. And you probably, if we're exploring nutrition, well, you'll probably want to go more deeply into that with Jillian instead of me. I don't know why. It could be because I broke down yesterday and went into a fried chicken place. I won't say it was the Colonel's fried chicken. I won't say it was KFC, but I can honestly tell you that it wasn't. I didn't have a Coke with it. But why not? We all know it's the real thing. Let me tell you, when I used to open a lot of my live training sessions, I would have the stage set up. So you'd see a big round table and a bunch of bottles of water, more water than anyone would drink. The water wasn't there because I needed so much of it. The water was there to hide what was behind it. What was behind it was, at some point in talking about the healings, I would reach in back and I'd pull out a bottle of Coke. And I'd wait for the inevitable groan from the audience. It wasn't really so much a groan as it was a gasp. The people attending would go, ah. And I go, what's the matter? It's the real thing. And I drink it and they'd be horrified. Some of them would actually be angry. And then we'd later bring up the healing demo. And of course, I said, this demo won't work because I'm drinking the Coca-Cola. But of course, the demo always worked. And people would gasp. And so later I started saying, you're right, I shouldn't drink this. And I reached behind bottles of water again. And I said, so I've switched to Dr. Pepper. It's got to be healthy because it says doctor right there in the label. So again, people would laugh and the groaners would groan louder, which meant it was no longer a natural gasp. We were talking about natural humor and natural laugh as opposed to a forced laugh. It wasn't a natural gasp. It was now they wanted to be heard. So I said, yeah, you're right. I guess I shouldn't drink Dr. Pepper either. Maybe I should go for something more natural, something that forms on earth, maybe on the blades of grass in the early morning. And I reached behind, I pulled out Mountain Dew. Well, by that time, the people who were laughing at it were just, pardon the expression, shitting themselves. And the people who were angry were really trying to groan in anger. And the contrast made it funnier for the people who were laughing at it because they know that everyone is now pretentiously trying to be offended. Why? Where is the humor in that? Where is humor? What is the role of humor? It releases attachment and allows us to receive. It lets us grasp a message. They're going to remember. I had a Coke, I had a Dr. Pepper, I had a Mountain Dew. The healing worked anyway. They're going to see the humor and it penetrates. It opens us up to receiving, to accessing information. But sometimes we miss things. I remember my first tour in Australia. I was there for about 8 weeks. And one morning, I had one night off in 8 weeks. And the whole group of us went out to party in Australia. And we can kind of grasp what partying in Australia means. It means beer and tequila shots and whatever other fun you have on your one night out because you've got that one morning you can sleep afterwards, I thought. Somewhere at the ungodly hour of 6 or 7 in the morning, my phone rings in my hotel room. So I sort of, don't even want to let the light into my eyes. I reach over to answer the phone. I go, hello. And this very serious voice says, are you Dr. Eric Pearl? I said, yes. Do you know that are you aware that the AMA, the Australian Medical Association, has convened a formal meeting and issued a national warning about you? I'm thinking, what, an American waving his hands in the air, very dangerous, right? And I said, very naturally, you're kidding, natural response. And I could hear and feel him taking a measured breath and say, I failed to find the humor in that because I said, you're kidding. And I'm thinking, you're right. You failed. You failed to find the humor in it. Doesn't mean the humor is missing. You just failed to find it. I'm thinking, crazy American waving his arms in the air, quick, hide the babies, right? So anyway, I thought, and I said goodbye and I hung up. Apparently it was a national radio show. The phone starts ringing again 20 minutes later. Major television, national Australian television. It was Channel 10 News, and I think the Today Tonight Show, and something else. I can't remember what it's called. Another program, and they're sending people over. And my person representing me down there got wind of it, and he's downstairs or she's downstairs holding the people back, only letting them come up one at a time. And let me tell you, the last thing I wanted to do at that hour of the morning after my one night out was to try to look or sound civilized and entertained. But in they came. They were coming one way or the other. So he did one interview, another interview, and finally, and one of the shows came in, and I thought they left. They came back with this very tall, polite, proper speaking Australian accent, 86-year-old woman who couldn't move her hands more than like this much. And they said, we want you to, and this interviewer was so mean on TV. And in his breaks, he was very friendly. And then television came back on and he was nasty. It was an act. But he said, we want you to do a healing on this woman's arthritic swollen fingers that could move like, 6 degrees maybe. I said, she's probably had that for 45, 55, 60 years. I mean, I can't tell you what's going to happen. The guy said, that's all right. When we come back, we'll just explain why you refuse to do it. I went, shit, that won't go over well. So she came back in and we let her feel the frequencies just like everyone else. And suddenly she could move her fingers. And that was great. And even the interviewer, who was so mean throughout all these interviews, said, I've seen something I've never seen before. So at the end of the night, on one of the news shows, I see this woman being interviewed, and she was taken and swept away to some main AMA representative there, Australian Medical Association. And she's saying, and he's saying, you know what happened? It's impossible. She says, but look, I can move my fingers. He said, yes, but that's impossible. She said, but I can knit again. He said, that's impossible. She got so angry at him. She said, I can button my sweater. And she showed him. It's funny how anger affects things and how humor affects things, and how funny it was the way she responded with her anger, how it impacted the Australian audience. But the way that she and I spoke during the experience, the pleasant humor of it allowed for the nature of the healing to show up. At least it does for some people. It's really, really, really important that we can smile. I find that when I'm facilitating a session, there's a natural smile of pleasure. There's the joy and the humor of the excitement of seeing the response. You can't fake it, although people try. You've probably seen some of these groups or classes. Jillian and I went to a yoga class one time where they brought in the laughing yogi, and he would sit there in front of the class and force out laughter, and everyone was supposed to laugh with him. So we'd all try to laugh with him, and maybe some of the people found it funny. I just found it so forced that it wasn't natural, because humor is natural. But sometimes we get so serious, we stunt it, There's, bad jokes. I just flew in from Sedona, and boy, are my arms tired. Sedona being a spiritual city. I taught my dog to heal, and now I'm out of a job. And, grandfather jokes, father jokes. And sometimes there are jokes that are just funny, and yet we think that when it has to do with healing or God or spirituality, we're not supposed to laugh. And people get really annoyed. And I'll give you an example. First, I'll tell you the joke, and then I'll tell you the response that I've gotten to it. So this woman is in a terrible car accident. They don't think she's going to live. Goes into the hospital. She dies, leaves her body, shows up in heaven, and they say, Gladys, nice to see you, but it's not your time. You have to go back. you've got a long life to live, long life. So we're sending you home. So Gladys wakes up in the hospital and they tell her she's going to be in the hospital for at least 3 months. And she figures, well, I'm going to be in here for 3 months anyway. I might as well do all those things that I thought about, but I didn't do. Going to fix my nose, going to fix my breasts. I'm going to color my hair. I'm going to lift my chin and my face. I'm going to do all these different things. So she's there. She spends all the time. She heals. She's looking great. Checking out of the hospital when she's released. She walks out the door. She's hit by a bus. Next thing, she ends up in heaven. She finds herself facing God. She looks at him and she said, God, you told me I had a long life to live. What's happening? God leans forward. He adjusts his glasses on his nose, squints a little bit, and he goes, Gladys? He couldn't recognize. Okay, so it's a funny joke, right? It's a funny joke. Do you know people got angry at that joke? You know why some people got angry? They got angry because God wore glasses. They got angry because God squinted or didn't recognize someone. That is failure to see the humor. When one of these people say, I failed to see the humor, they are absolutely right. Let us not fail to see the humor. It's part of who we are. It's part of our nature. You know, we talk about healing animals. Can we heal animals the same way we heal people? And we say, you know, animals are people in fursuits, of course. And then when, I don't know if we can see this on the camera or not, but then when I was on stage, I'd say, you know, sometimes the horses will fall off of the massage tables, but otherwise you do the same thing. And the humor in it allows people to get how silly we are sometimes. But topics are important. Sometimes we look at topics of reincarnation, for example, and we don't want them to be anything but serious and true. There's a joke I read recently. It's a man talking about his wife. He said, my wife asked me the other day about reincarnation. What is it? And I told her it's when you die and you come back as something completely different. She was so angry. She said, you mean I could die and come back like as a pig? And he said, I don't really think you're listening. You don't get it? Maybe I didn't tell it funny. Shall I tell it? Is anyone laughing? Katharina, do you not get it? Do you get it? You want me to say it again? Watch. Now listen carefully. So, guy's talking to his wife about reincarnation. What's reincarnation? He said, that's when you die and you come back as something entirely different. She's furious. She said, you mean I could come back like maybe as a pig? And he said, I'm not sure you're really listening. Entirely different. Are you there? Poor Harry's about to fall off his chair. His mascara is running and he doesn't even wear any. Okay. Anyway, failure to see humor in something is really funny because it often implies our blocks. Now, it's not about telling a joke. It's about that humor releases expectations and allows us to be natural, to be who we are, and allows us to learn when we can see the humor in ourselves. There's a difference between seeing humor in yourself and feeling laughed at or made fun of. Now, there are ways you can laugh at and make fun of people. That's not necessarily healthy humor. But sometimes how we perceive it has to do on a personal perspective. I would open a lot of the training programs and talk about, you know, Reconnective healing out, it's not a technique. We don't breathe it in one direction, blow it out another, make it clockwise, make it counterclockwise, bring it down from the heavens and this percentage up from the earth, shake it off, spray it off, cough it out, sneeze it off, run away and pull up make-believe zippers in front of ourselves. And the humor, the people who were laughing because I said, and you're doing a lot of this shit, aren't you? And they were laughing even funnier because it gave them the opening they needed to see what they were doing that they can really release. Because as we know, everything we release, we let go of what's been obscuring our vision of ourselves, of who we are. Oh, by the way, I would love to go on and talk more, but first I've got to pause and say thank you to all the YouTubers who have come in to join us. I wish you were here for more because it might get better. It will. But come join us again. Go down to the little notes in the bottom. I think there's a place in the links you can tune into and come join us in the RLC, the Reconnective Life Community, as we talk about more topics this week or this month on the nature of self-care. Also, if you want to go in and join us in the portal, the first hour there is free and you can get to that too. So sign in. Nice to see you. Come back and join us. Anyway, so we talk about shake it off and spray it off and breathe it in and cough it out and sneeze it out and do everything else that we're doing. And those who were getting it, the majority, were laughing and going, I guess I really don't have to do that. I guess I don't have to take off my heavy belt or my jewelry, because really, could you imagine God's floating over the top of you going, I really want Marilyn to have a healing, but that watch, that belt buckle, I just can't get through it. And when we start to laugh at these things, we start to see them, we let them go. We no longer need to walk around in that illusion. Hi, I'm Eric Pearl, and we have launched an online course called The Portal. It's an expansion of our online essentials, our level 1, an 8+ hour e-learning course.
And we decided to add content because our students were asking for more. What is a portal? It's a doorway to transformation.
It includes the 8 hours of the online essentials course,
2 key chapters, one on love and one on healing, and workbooks from our worthiness episode from the series The Inner Compass.
More than 10 hours of content.
The portal helps us discover our roadblocks that may be stopping us from living our fullest potential.
How does the portal help bring about these benefits? Easy to follow short segments with interactive exercises, information acquired not only through the mind, but through interaction with the frequencies themselves. Effortless learning and personal evolution.
It brings the possibility for instant transformation, healing, and the evolution of each and every one of us in our everyday lives.
Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
Welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. It'll be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Things we
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every fourth week, we will include a live Q&A so we can talk about the things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats. We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, you know, when we were in the different location resorts and things, and we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den.
Put into the chat line, what is facility?
We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, they have a place and space to just define what does that really mean living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective Life, living in the frequencies every day.